I, 48 male, inherited a beach house from my grandfather. The house has been in my family for generations and it has a lot of sentimental value to me. I'm now with my long-term girlfriend for 7 years after divorcing my first wife, which ended on good terms. Girlfriend's ex-husband had a gambling problem. Any money they had was lost long ago. She has a daughter from a previous marriage, Cara, and I have a daughter, Emmy, from my marriage as well. Our daughters are each nearly adult, with mine being basically 3 months younger. Cara has been in my life for 7 years and we have a good relationship. However, she has an active father, so I didn't fill that role. I was in her life 50% of the time, so I have no doubt I played a large role in her life, but I wouldn't say father, but others do say a non-legal stepfather. I have my daughter, Emmy, half-time, aside from summers when I had her more due to my and my ex's lifestyle. With that said, my ex and I have a good relationship, as does our daughter with all of us. Cara and Emmy have gotten along and they are friendly. They've made plans independent of myself and my girlfriend, but they don't consider themselves sisters or best friends. Now to the issue. Cara will be going to school near the beach house and has asked if she can live in it to save money, which will be significant. Emmy approached me and said she wanted to live there after the summer but wanted to live alone while also in school. The home is more than big enough for two, but she pointed out that they have very different lifestyles and would be far more comfortable alone or with a friend if I insisted she lives with someone. It was a frank conversation and she brought up the fact that the home would be hers one day, so it made sense, and she was right. The home will be hers by law in a few years as I will pass it to her. My girlfriend and Cara are very upset, calling it favoritism and pointing out that she'll already be set for life between having a free ride to school via scholarships and housing, while Cara will be using loans and may have to take a gap year or attend another school altogether. So they're asking me to reconsider, and I think I've damaged my relationship. Am I the idiot for this decision? I agree that it's favoritism, but Emmy is my daughter. Of course I'm going to favour her, right? Edit, it's not an easy solution. My daughter wants to keep the space private. Cara is far more social and enjoys a party lifestyle. I don't think she has any problems, but yeah, people are usually around. Emmy prefers to be low-key and keep her home quiet and organised. Girlfriend hasn't contributed to the beach house. Not the idiot. Here's why. Your daughter is a non-party kid. Your stepdaughter is a party kid. You own the property, and who in their right mind lets a party kid live in a home far away who won't be monitored? Drinking brats destroy property all the time, and it's you who will have to fix it. Also, having a party kid with a non-party kid, focused on school, means the one with the scholarships has to try and deal with keeping grades up and all the extra commotion in the house. To me, it's not about your kid versus the stepdaughter, it's about keeping the property as is and not having the issues of destruction or another child losing scholarships. Also, since when is getting scholarships a free ride? As someone who went to grad school on scholarship, they don't just hand those things out to anyone. Your daughter probably worked hard to get herself into a better position than your girlfriend's daughter. That shouldn't be used against her. Cara shouldn't have thought of the beach house as hers. Heck, it's not even necessarily about the partying. It boils down to it's his daughter's inheritance. Therefore, it's her decision. Additionally, OP isn't a parent to Cara. He and her mother are not married. She has an involved father. Free housing is a huge ask. Frankly, it's concerning that OP's girlfriend and her daughter have jumped to labelling this as favoritism when OP doesn't have any responsibility for Cara. They seem entitled. For 7 years, your daughter has been pleasant and friendly toward two people you brought into her life. Now she's moving into the next phase of her life and she would like less contact with them. That seems entirely reasonable. To force her into living with your girlfriend's daughter, especially when there's a lifestyle incompatibility, seems unfair and graceless. It's absolutely not favoritism, which is a wild thing to say when Cara also has a living, breathing father with 50% custody. My husband and I, 34, both have decently large families. On occasion, I'll host family get-togethers for everyone to catch up on things, drink, or just hang out. I'm in charge of cooking dinner for everyone, and sometimes my close family will help with the cooking. There are 2 different times at a get-together when I didn't recognize someone there, and my husband wouldn't either. Even my mom or aunt didn't know who they were. Finally, I found out it was just a distant cousin of mine, so seeing people I don't recognize or know who they are is a reoccurring thing I just had to get used to with 2 of our families this big. I hosted a get-together last night, and it was smaller than some of the ones I've been to or hosted in the past. But I did see a woman I didn't recognize. I didn't mind it, but I asked my husband who the woman was and he told me she was a friend of his uncle. So I finished cooking with my aunt and everyone comes in to set up their plates. The family friend approached me and asked if I had made anything without gluten. I apologized and told her no, I didn't. She asked me if I could make her something and I told her it took me nearly the whole day to cook and that I just wanted to sit down and relax now. She got defensive and said that if I was making dinner for all these people, that there should at least be someone else that's gluten-free. I told her that there is no one I know in my family with gluten intolerance, and if I knew she would be here, I would have made something for her. She yelled at me, saying that I ruined this for her, which I was confused about. Ruined what? And that she would never come back here. My husband's uncle came in and told me that I should just make her something to eat and to just get it over with, and I told him no, she could eat whenever she has an opportunity to. I don't want to make her sick and that I'm tired and finished cooking for the night. So they both ended up leaving and I was talking to my husband about it and he got mad at me, saying that I pretty much ruined the dinner for them and that I should have just made her something to eat and that his uncle will probably not come by here again. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If your husband's uncle knew he was bringing a friend with a gluten intolerance, it was the uncle's job to communicate that, not to treat you like the magical food fairy who could whip up something gluten-free at a moment's notice. Boo on your husband for not having your back. This, exactly. The audacity. Reading this just made me angry for OP. Everyone coming up telling you to cook for her should have done it then, since it was such a minuscule task to them, and I'm sure there had to have been some things she could have found to eat that were already made that didn't have gluten. The entitlement is sickening. Also, have these people never heard that no one sits down to eat until the cook has sat down? Unreal. Mom, I doubt you're a mind reader. How were you supposed to know a stranger in your home, a person you didn't even know would be in attendance, would have a food intolerance issue? Time to shut down these big family gatherings. Send out invitations, explain the issue with food sensitivity, and now all guests must RSVP before an event. You may only attend the gathering if you respond to the invite. One bad apple spoils the bunch, and now everyone has to adjust. I have 5 kids. My 4th child, Jack, fake name, recently became a mid-teen. After my oldest 3 got their driver's licenses, I picked out a car with them. The cars had to be used but in good condition, and they cost around $10,000 each, with my oldest son's a bit less and my daughter's a bit more, inflation. My parents have always preferred Jack over the other kids. We've had several fights about this over the years, and it's really strained my relationship with my parents. For my older children's birthdays, they gave the kids cards with a few $100s in them, which is a pretty standard grandparent gift, and I never said a word about it. For Jack's birthday, they gave him a check for $5,000. While I didn't say anything at the party, I was surprised and annoyed. When I talked to them afterward about the disparity, they said that they just sold some land and had liquid cash. We fought and they called me an entitled brat. Nothing new under the sun. When we were getting ready to look at cars, I told Jack to bring his check from his grandparents. He asked why, and I said that I would pay for half the car and his grandparents were paying for the other half. Jack was upset because he thought the $5,000 was just for him and that I paid for cars for all his older siblings in their entirety, so I was treating him unfairly. I pointed out that they didn't get $5,000 from their grandparents, so it evens out. He said, 2 wrongs don't make a right. I won't transcribe the entire argument, but he was extremely upset and said I ruined his birthday, and now he isn't even sure if he wants a car, to which I said that's fine, and if he changes his mind, he can let me know. He also called my parents, who rang me and called me an idiot for trying to steal their gift. We had a pretty intense fight where I said some things one probably shouldn't say to one's parents. They said depriving one's son to try and keep everything even between all kids is cruel and neurotic. They asked if I would take money from their college funds if they got scholarships. I said that wasn't remotely the same and they called me a hypocrite. I know my parents don't like how much the other kids look like my wife, but when Jack was born he looked just like me except for his eyes. He's paler and taller than my wife and has my features. He just has her eyes. So he became their favourite. So your idiot parents favour the whitest child and you've been allowing these awful people near your wife and kids for 20 years? Cutting them off is long overdue, and you are the idiot for not doing it sooner. However, it would help if you had an honest talk with your son about favouritism and how he's simply encouraging hate towards his mother and siblings by accepting the money. You need to apologise to all your kids for what you've put them through by maintaining your parents in their lives. Exactly. If you cannot get your parents to treat all your children fairly, limit their contact as much as possible and open a savings account for Jack with that money. If you don't treat Jack the same as you treat his siblings, you are doing the same thing as your parents, only worse because you're supposed to be his main trusted person. Be a better parent. Everyone's the idiot here. He's right that a present from someone else shouldn't change your commitment. You're going to give him less than you had to his siblings. The gift is from you, not your parents. His grandparents suck for this reason. They created this situation with an extravagant gift they didn't give to the other children. Your son isn't much at fault here, though I hope he realizes how messed up the situation is by his age. If he wanted to go above and beyond, he would willingly offer his $5,000, but that's up to him. Update. Thanks for the feedback, everyone. I was trying to make things easier for myself and that was wrong. I talked to Jack about why it was wrong for his grandparents to give him that check and why it was wrong for him to accept it. So we voided it and sent it back, and I gave him $300. I'll pay for the car in its entirety. I, 35 female, have 3 kids. Female tween, male younger tween, male pre-tween, with my dear husband, 31. We both try our hardest to provide for our kids the best way we possibly can, but still there are quite a few limitations to the amount of luxury we can afford. For example, my sister, 24, married her wife, 29, around a year ago. Every time she came to visit us, she would bring extremely expensive gifts that I could only dream of affording. Her wife works a high-end job and she's a huge spender. She would bring expensive clothing items like purses, dresses, or makeup products for my daughter, games for my son, and some electronic devices. It's confusing for my kids. They've been acting differently since she started this. They push for items and ask for things way out of our budget. My husband and I must explain how we can't afford things like their aunt. I asked my sister before to cut back, but she hasn't listened. This time she brought my daughter a coat worth double my rent. I asked her to come into the kitchen and told her she should cut back on these gifts. I explained to her how this affected my kids, how it made them feel inferior and expect too much. I also told her it was harmful and asked her to please stop getting them these gifts that were this expensive and that otherwise I wouldn't want her to spend a lot of time with them. She told me she just wanted to make them happy and apologized. I thought that was the end of it. At night, I got a phone call from my sister-in-law, my sister's wife, saying I'd hurt my sister emotionally with how I put things, and she cried when she got home. She said she was disappointed in me and asked me not to disturb my sister unless it was to apologize. My sister is a very sensitive and emotional person, but I don't see what I did wrong here. I asked her to stop getting my kids expensive stuff because it makes them expect a certain luxury we surely can't afford. Should I apologize? Am I the idiot? My sister is a very sensitive person. Only about her own emotions. Where your emotions are concerned, she's as sensitive as a brick. You are not the idiot. Great catch. OP, you made a reasonable request and your sister's response is to cry to her wife, and her wife's response is to cut you out until you apologize for making a reasonable request. Neither of them has given a single thought about you. I disagree. OP says, I explained to her exactly how this affected my kids, how it made them feel inferior. No, it doesn't make your kids feel inferior, it makes you feel inferior. There's nothing wrong with having a rich relative who's generous. It's better than one who doesn't do anything for their nibblings. You would also complain, my sister is loaded and gives my kids cheap crap. Your kids are old enough to understand that aunties don't have kids and love spoiling them now and again, but they should realize that you don't have that kind of budget for luxury items, so they need to keep this in perspective and not demand things, even from aunties. How is this harmful exactly? Using your kids as leverage and threatening to cut her off in that slick way you did is harmful. Sorry, but you are the idiot. The other day, I, 38 female, went out on a date for dinner with my wife, 35. I'd reserved our usual table at a rather sophisticated restaurant. We've been going there for a long time, ever since we started dating 15 years ago, and I've never seen anyone bring young kids there. Anyway, the couple at the table beside ours had brought their infant child. The child would not stop crying. They would try to comfort her, but it lasted just a few minutes, and the kid went off on another crying fit. Once our food arrived, it only got worse. I was there to have a relaxing one-on-one conversation with my wife, and it was impossible under those circumstances. I thought we could sit at another table, so I asked our waiter if we could move to a different table. We'd been going to this restaurant for years, and always sat at this table when we could, so he asked me why we wanted to move. It was more of a joke. I said we wanted some space to converse and it was too loud here. The couple heard my answer and the husband said I was rude and insensitive. Now, I have 2 kids, young male and female grammar school age. I know the stress of being parents, but we never brought kids that young there. We went out much less, and when we did, we got babysitters then, just as we do now. I just said I preferred to sit elsewhere and didn't understand their comments. Was it an idiot move? Mainly because they heard? Not the idiot. They were being rude and insensitive to everybody else in the restaurant. I get that kids will cry, but you can't expect strangers to put up with a screaming child throughout their entire meal. They should have gotten a babysitter or something. Dear God, I find myself saying they should have gotten a babysitter far too often. Someone brought a screaming toddler to a 4-hour Wagner opera I attended. What is wrong with people? OP, you didn't complain to them or ask them to move, you just asked to remove yourselves from it. The fact that the father wasn't apologetic says a lot. Give it a few years and that kid will be the one running through the aisles and tripping waiters or watching videos at deafening levels on an iPad. It's crazy that other parents expect folks to put up with their kids' nonsense.